Okay, we're live.
Episode 19.
Of Real Life Lounge. Today we are continuing our summer theme and we're talking about the kitchen.
Yeah, so we're talking about all the different ways like kids can learn during the summer and things that you can do and be creative and use your time intentionally. And we really like to use the kitchen as a environment to learn. So we try to get our girls as involved as possible in the kitchen, and that kind of started at a young age. We think it's really important to get them involved when they're young, and it was hard when they were young.
Yeah,
right?
I was going to say I would preface all of this with don't try to involve your kids when it's like a crazy weeknight dinner and you need to get dinner on the table in like 20 minutes. Like don't invite your kids to help then, unless you have amazing patience, which is not us.
There were so many times when I was just like, I could be making this dinner way faster by myself.
Let me do it myself. But yeah, so that aside, it needs to be like an intentional, like, okay, I'm in the right mindset to have my kids help me in the kitchen. But there's so many great benefits to having them help you. And one of the big things is just their willingness to try and how much they like a variety of foods when they get to help prepare them. I don't know if it's because of us doing this from a young age, but our girls are very not picky. They will try anything. Lucy's favorite foods are sushi and Brussels sprouts. They're really good about eating a variety of foods. And I think it's because they take more interest in it when they help prepare it. But then also just the ability to have conversations with them about how important it is to fuel your body wisely and why we want to eat protein at every meal and why it's better to have balanced nutrition and not just eat sweets for an entire meal, and the variety of vegetables and fruits, eating from the rainbow. There's just a lot of great benefits of having them in the kitchen where they're involved and can be doing it firsthand versus you just trying to tell them these things.
We really believe that nutrition is one of those core topics that we need to teach our kids that we don't necessarily get in school, which is why it's one of the main topics in Real Life Learning Co. Whole month dedicated to nutrition. And when you're in the kitchen working with food with your kids, you can talk about nutrition and the importance of it, and just like understanding that at a young age is, I just think, sets them up so well for later in life. So many of us ate pretty poorly as kids and got away with it, and then at one point when we were adults, it caught up to us and we didn't have the knowledge behind it.
Well, I especially feel like we grew up in the era of like a really high carb breakfast. We all had like bagels and toast and cereal. And your family was all about the Danishes.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of ways to make it fun and get them involved, regardless of the age. One thing that is really fun is just when you're at the grocery store, if there's something different in the produce section, whether it's a fruit or a vegetable that no one's really familiar with. We got like a horned melon one year. It was a fascinating fruit. And it's so many, for the little kids, it's like textures and using so many senses. But then also, you can do some research on what it is and what the nutritional value is, where it's grown. You can really have it be a great learning experience.
Not only is there's so much to be learned in the kitchen, but it's a skill also that will serve them well as they grow older, because being able to cook for yourself is just one of those must-have skills. Like you just need it. And if you have that from a young age and then are comfortable with continuing to learn in that arena because you've already kind of have all the basics, and like even like knife skills and being able to cut, like there's just skills that are really important. One of the other things that benefits that we find with the kitchen is how it relates to cultures, and how we're able to talk about different cultures based on the food that we're eating, because you can sneak in some extra lessons there.
Yeah. So the girls go to our village school. It's this outdoor school, and they have cooking. And this spring, their curriculum has been around the world, and they have this little passport. And every week they're making and trying a new food from a different country, and they learn a word from that language, and they talk about the flag. And so food can be a really great way to learn about the different cultures in the world. And another idea is if you wanted to do an alphabet thing. I love the alphabet. is finding different foods, whether it's fruits or vegetables or different cultural dishes that the kids can learn about and make throughout the summer. We just learned the other day we were looking for something that started with an X and apparently a prickly pear. Like it's, I don't know if it's scientific
Oh,
genesis, starts with an X. And so that's our plan on X day is
you gotta
to
get creative with X.
get a prickly pear and see what we can make with prickly pear.
The other thing that goes along with cultural connections is agriculture. So if a certain culture eats a certain kind of food, it's because that's what grows well in that country or is abundant, as well as spices. So you learn that why they're eating rice in China is because they grow rice easily in China. Why are they using these spices in India? It's because these spices are prevalent. So that kind of connection of agriculture helps then form a more worldly lesson, about food.
I also think having your kids involved in stuff in the kitchen is a really strong sense of empowerment, right? Kids love to do what you're doing and they love to help. When we met up with the Martins last Friday, both sets of our kids got the lunches ready and they just take so much pride in that and being able to help and do stuff to be a part of the family. And we've kind of gotten away from it because it's been a busy evening season lately, but having your kids, if they're older, be in charge of making a meal once a week, whether you rotate, if your kids are old enough and you want to rotate which kid or they work together. But again, it allows them to learn what makes a nutritionally balanced meal, making sure they've got the protein and the vegetable, but then also just being in charge and coming up with their own creative ideas. One time Lucy made, was it crab cakes? Or was it?
Yeah, in the waffle iron.
No,
No.
not the waffle iron
Oh.
ones. Those were eggs. No, she made like a crab cakes and sweet mashed potatoes and like asparagus or something. It was amazing.
Another thing that I've watched our children learn while cooking is math and fractions.
Lots of
So
math.
all of like, what is 1.5 tablespoons, and then understanding ounces and cups and all of the quantities, like having a knowledge of all that, you could learn from a book, but doing it is just so much more valuable. So you learn all kinds of math and volumes and weight and all that when you do cooking, but also like following directions, following a recipe, doing the steps in order, understanding how it all goes together to make the final thing. Like how many different, I don't care if you have to put together a piece of furniture from, IKEA, you have to learn how to follow directions. Well, actually those don't really come with directions, but you need to be able, so that's a skill too. So getting them involved in the kitchen is a great thing.
Yeah. So if you have any tips or tricks or things that you do with your kids in the kitchen, any favorite recipes, we would love to hear about them and share. And thanks again for tuning into Real Life Lounge. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, all the things. Real topics, real talk. We will see you next week.
Good outro. Talk to you later.